Let me go live now, please. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Planning Committee of the Erewash Borough Council. For any of you are watching in from at home, other than members, I'm Councillor Robert Parkinson, Chairman of the Planning Committee. May I ask our officers to tell you which officers are in attendance, please?
Right, yes, Chairman. This evening we have Steve Birkinshaw, Head of Planning and Regeneration, Richard Snow, Development Manager, Danielle Hughes, Legal Services Manager, Angelica Cowfold, Committee Scrutiny and Civic Affairs Manager, Ben Lahouke, Technical Support Officer, myself, Lynn Gent, Committee and Scrutiny Officer, and Ellie Walters, Legal Officer. Thank you.
Thank you. So item 1 on our agenda is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Councillor Mary Hopkins sends her apologies. Councillor Tony Sanghera is her substitute. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other apologies? No? And we'll move on to item 2, declarations of interest. I will start by declaring interest in items 7 and 9 as the County Councillor for Draycott.
Can I say that I'm a councillor for Shipley View with item 10? Thank you.
Any other declarations? Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest for agenda item 7 and agenda item 9, as I'm a parish councillor for Draycott and Churchfield Parish Council, and I'm ward member for Draycott and Risley.
Thank you. May I also remind members to turn off mobile phones so they don't interrupt us during the meeting. Thank you. Then we move on to item 3, which are the minutes of the meeting which was held on the 3rd of March, which have been circulated. Unless I hear otherwise, may I assume that they're a correct record? No comments. In that case, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 4 then, which is the construction of a detached dwelling, etc., at number 21 King George Avenue, Ilkeston. Mr. Snow.
Thank you, Chair. The application site is the rear garden of 21 King George Avenue within the built-up urban area of Ilkeston. The application seeks planning permission to erect a detached bungalow with rooms in the roof. The main vehicular access would be from a new access onto King George Avenue, running alongside the existing house at number 21. An existing driveway to the rear would be retained. This shows the elevations of the proposed property. And this shows the floor plans along with details of the proposed detached garage. And this plan shows the cross sections across the site, showing the relative heights of the proposed and adjacent properties. The view of the application site from the rear of number 21. And this is looking slightly more to the south, showing the existing property on the neighbouring site. And the view looking northeast across the site, again showing a similar backland development on the adjacent site. This is the view back the other way towards the rear of number 21. The proposed access would run along the left-hand boundary as we view it on this photograph. And this shows the existing access onto Warncliffe Road with a view left and right from that access. And the recommendation, Chair, is to approve the application subject to the conditions set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 6 representations on this tonight. I understand they're all being read. I don't think anyone is coming in person, so maybe have the first one, please, from Mr. and Mrs. Gentry.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll read that statement. Having reviewed the recommendation online for approval of this development, we are still strongly contesting and objecting to the property development on the grounds below. 1. Party line agreement. The bordering hedge between number 21 and number 17 King George Avenue will be affected according to the proposed plans. This hedge is the boundary and belongs half to number 21 and half to number 17. We do not want this hedge affected or moved in any way. On the drawing, you have measured the boundary line as 2.2 metres. This, however, is from number 17 side of the hedge, not halfway between the hedge. This path stroke access needs to be remeasured from the middle of the hedge where the boundary is. 2. Privacy. The windows in the upstairs of this detached dwelling with rooms in the roof will look directly into our property and lower garden. Our privacy will be affected by this property having these windows. The garden and the back of our house will be clearly overlooked by this new property, resulting in loss of privacy. This is unacceptable. At this current period in time, we are not directly overlooked by any of the neighbours. To reference your drawing, KG 311/05, Velux windows drawn, however, in other drawings, these Velux windows do not appear, which is correct. 3. The last property built in the neighbourhood area is number 30A, Warncliffe Road. This is a single-storey bungalow, not a dormer bungalow. This is a more suitable size and design for the area. 4. Visual impact of the new development. The proposed new development will be overbearing and out of scale for the plot size and area. The bungalow this property would be adjacent to is only single storey. 5. Noise and disturbance while the property is being built. 6. Overdevelopment of the site. We believe that the most recent property built in the area, number 30A, Warncliffe Road, should set the precedent for any future developments within the local area. This proposed development is not suitable for this area, and we would greatly appreciate you considering this objection before approving the plans for number 21. And that's the end of the statement, Chairman.
Thank you very much. And the next statement is from Nigel Mumford.
Thank you, Chair. The Council is asked to reject this application on the following grounds. The site is not served by the track from Warncliffe Road. There is a drop of approximately 20 centimetres from the track to the garden. Any access has been disused for many years and should remain so. The track is part of my property. It is not a shared access, and I am not willing to grant any further access. Only my bungalow has a sole access via the track, with some existing neighbours having secondary access to their back gardens. Currently use, which does not include 21 King George Avenue, is at capacity and becoming increasingly dangerous and contentious between neighbours. The point where it meets Warncliffe Road has poor vision and is close to bus stops and a pedestrian crossing. Many school children congregate here. It cannot sustain additional traffic. Any traffic on the track from the proposed site would be new and additional, not alternative to existing redirected traffic from the existing property, and must be prevented. If permission were granted for the development, all deliveries to the building site would need to be via King George Avenue, immediately opposite a large school. This could pose potential danger to the children with large vehicles manoeuvring on the busy road. This would also be a consideration in relation to refuse collection and emergency vehicles if needed when any development had occurred. The officer report makes reference to cross-sectional plans. I'm concerned that these may not be accurate, given that the site plans show the track as if it were within the curtilage of the site, rather than being wholly within the demise of my property. The proposed development may not impact on the street scene of either King George Avenue or Warncliffe Road, but will have substantial impact on the amenity of the nearby homes by way of overdevelopment of the site. The report is inconsistent in that it speaks of backland developments in close proximity, and that there would be no loss of visual amenity. A two-storey house will impact on the visual amenity of these properties. The Council is therefore asked to reject the officer recommendation and to refuse planning consent for the proposed development. That's the end of that submission.
Thank you. And the third submission is from Jenny Widdowson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll read that statement. The Council is asked to reject this application on the following grounds. The proposed dwelling is a four-bedroomed house with mansard roof, not a bungalow, and is therefore excessive for the site. There was no notification to or consultation with the freeholder of the track or its immediate neighbour on receipt of the first application. The valid concerns and objections of these householders are again being ignored. The proposed site is not served by the track to Warncliffe Road. There is a substantial drop in level from the track to the overgrown garden, and it is clear that there have been no vehicular movements here for many years. Use of the 9-foot wide privately owned track, which is part of the demise of 30A Warncliffe Road, by the existing users is becoming more difficult, with drivers having to back up when they meet on the rough and unlit track. It would be unreasonable for the council to permit a development that increases pressures here, with this potential for conflict between neighbours. The officer report states that no inquiry has been made to the Derbyshire Wildlife Trust regarding the presence of protected species in the vicinity of the site. Other parts of the report comment on established hedgerows and that the garden is unkempt. This is ideal habitat for wildlife, and there are bats and frogs in the area. No development should be permitted until this matter has been investigated. It is likely that the reference to historic commercial vehicle activity actually relates to 30 Warncliffe Road, which has been in the ownership of 2 generations of one family from 1970 to 2020, and may have been used for commercial activities prior to that, i.e. more than 50 years ago, but not since. The suggestion could be supported by the presence of a 38-foot long double-height garage. The whole of 30A, which includes the track, was part of this property at that time. No commercial vehicle activity should be permitted at this application site, even if a domestic residence is permitted. Please reject this application. And that concludes that statement.
Thank you. And now we come to a statement from Beverly Mason.
Thank you, Chair. We are concerned about the application for access to the rear of the property, 21 King George Avenue from Warncliffe Road. Any increase in traffic in this area would be unwelcome. It's busy enough already. An offer was made to us by the applicant to buy a share of the land we own at the rear of our property, adjoining the rear of 21 King George Avenue. We declined the offer for the benefit of ourselves and our neighbours. We make no objection to the erection of the dwelling. We object to the application for access to the rear of the property, 21 King George Avenue from Warncliffe Road. Thank you. And that's the end of that submission.
Thank you. And then we come to a statement from Mr. and Mrs. Draycott.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll read that statement. As previous owners of 21 King George Avenue and only having vehicular access to King George Avenue, we cannot understand the reference in the council report access would continue to serve one dwelling on the site, the new dwelling as opposed to the existing dwelling to Warncliffe Road. We also see that the report states that whilst the amended state scheme retains a vehicular access into Warncliffe Road, the main vehicular access would be King George Avenue. The main vehicular access to the property was always King George Avenue and not to Warncliffe Road by means of using the private lane. The words continue and retain suggest that using this access route has always been available to 21 King George Avenue when this is not the case. The properties which use the lane have permission granted in their title deeds, as this is a private land owned by Mr. Mumford, and only the property owners with this permission are entitled to use this access, with the requirement that the right of way and the purchaser and persons deriving title under him paying from time to time a fair proportion of keeping the said avenue or way in good repair and condition. We would like confirmation that the title deeds for 21 King George Avenue also have this information included within them, as our title deeds to this property have, and they date back to 1921. This property has been in my family since 1965, and at no time have we seen any vehicles using this lane from 21 King George Avenue. And that concludes the statement.
Thank you. And the final statement is from Steve Potter.
Thank you, Chair. After consultation with the neighbours to the rear of 21 King George Avenue regarding their concerns over using the access onto Warncliffe Road, we decided to redesign the proposed plan to access the property via King George Avenue. We hope this has dealt with their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the representation tonight. So over to members now, unless any officer has any comment to make. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. And I think with the way you said that, you almost preempted what I'm about to say. So I feel before we get into the meat of the discussion, I'd like a little steer from the officers in terms of access rights, unadopted roads, private roads, all of that kind of stuff. I could see how it could be a very contentious issue but is it something that falls within the remit of the planning committee? Would one of the officers be able to enlighten me a bit, please?
You were reading my mind, Councillor Thomas. Mr. Birkinshaw.
Thank you, Chair. The access issues are irrelevant to the planning determination in front of you. As with all issues of legal land ownership, the planning consent doesn't affect those legal rights, and neither is it dependent upon them. If the proposal relies on land or access rights to which it has no right, then it wouldn't be able to be implemented, but that wouldn't be a restriction on the granting of consent. It's quite frequently the case that applications are made before all the relevant legal rights have been resolved, and this is a part of the structure of planning law. Irrespective of all of that, it's quite clear from the application that the main access drive to the main parking and turning area and garage is from King George Avenue and not from Warncliffe Road. And I hope that assists members in their determination.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thomas, do you want to come back now?
No, thank you. I don't have anything substantive to add at this point, but thank you for the clarification, Mr. Birkinshaw.
Right, thank you then. Councillor Miller. Councillor Miller? I'm seeing everybody but Councillor Miller. I'll come back to Councillor Miller if necessary. Councillor Harold Griffiths.
Yes, Chair. I think that all the issues are covered, and the issues respecting arguments between private owners is for another forum and not for this one. But I do think that this seems to me doable in today's climate, particularly at one time we were very much against backland development. But I think in today's climate, particularly with the government saying there's a presumption in favour of development, I think we'd be struggling to defend this on appeal. I'll move formally that it be approved.
I'm back, Chairman. Hello, Chairman. Can you hear me, Chairman?
I seem to be muted somehow. I'm not sure how that happened. Councillor Miller, yes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I think most of the problems discussed why people come objecting to it are civil matters rather than the planning matters. So it certainly meets everything required for brownfield sites. So I second Councillor Griffiths' approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then we move on to Councillor John Flood.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, most of it's been said now, but you know, I was going to say that you know, back in the day, you know, a long time ago now, you know, we used to frown on back garden development or backland development. Not anymore. You know, there was a need to compromise some time ago. You know, we took that step to compromise. I don't think it's done any harm. It's obviously helped to, you know, increase our quota of houses, and you know, every little helps. And I think it is quite clear that the access is from King George Avenue and not Warncliffe Road. Yeah, I mean, things like party walls and edges, and you know, they're all private matters that need to be discussed between the, you know, private people, and they're certainly not material planning concerns. So I'll be voting for this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Flood. I have no more speakers indicating, so we'll move on to the vote. The officer's recommendation of approval has been moved and seconded. So whichever officer is going to take the roll call, would you please do so?
Well, with me, Chairman. Right, can I take your vote for or against or to abstain approval of this application? Councillor Custance.
For.
Councillor John Flood.
For.
Councillor Mrs. Flood.
For.
Councillor Howard Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Margaret Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Holbrook.
For.
Okay. Councillor Sanghera.
For.
Councillor Miller.
For.
Councillor Parkinson.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
Councillor Sewell.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor White.
For.
There we go. The application is approved.
Thank you very much. In that case, we move on to agenda item 5, which is a variation of a condition concerning the opening hours of the cafe at the bottle kiln in West Hallam. Mr. Snow.
The application site is indeed the Bottle Kiln Craft Centre Gallery and Cafe, located on the southern side of High Lane West at West Hallam. And the application seeks planning permission to vary a condition that was attached to a 1983 planning permission to allow the cafe to open into the evenings on 3 days a week. Currently, the entire premises are restricted to opening hours of 11 AM till 5 PM. The application seeks to allow just the cafe element of the business to remain open beyond 5 PM up to 10 PM on Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays. This photograph, just for information, shows the premises from the High Lane West frontage, and the recommendation, Chair, is to approve the application subject to the condition in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 representations, the first one being from Peter Steiner.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll read that statement. It is noted that the recommendation is to approve, and the reason is to protect the amenity of nearby residents. The conditions state that the opening hours for the cafe are Sunday to Wednesday, 11 AM to 5 PM, Thursday to Saturday, 11 AM to 10 PM. My observations are as follows. A. Variation of ERE/0483/0054. The opening time for the premises has been 10 AM for many, many years. The relevant site history provides no evidence of approval for this. Therefore, the bottle kiln may welcome consideration of the conditions recommended. Over the past few years, with evening opening, on-street parking includes Hyde Lane West and Kiln Close, as well as St Wilfrid's Road. C, with present daytime opening, it is not uncommon, weather permitting, for outdoor dining to take place. I note that the reason for the recommendation is to protect the amenity of nearby occupants. Would it not be consistent with this reason that the extended opening time of 5 PM to 10 PM was for only indoor dining? I suggest that if I had neighbours who on 3 evenings a week invited 40 to 60 people to a party during the summer, I would be justified in making a valid complaint for harmful impact on amenity. The report papers accept the extended opening hours would have the potential to cause additional disturbance to local residents. I respectfully request that my proposal be considered as an addition to the conditions in the report for the specified reason, namely to protect the amenity of nearby residents. And that concludes that statement.
Thank you. And the second statement is from Nicholas Stone.
Thank you, Chair. The Bottle Kiln at West Hallam has been trading now for over 35 years. It attracts customers from across the region to its well-established and highly regarded mixture of leisure retailing and catering. It remains a family business and employs around 40 local people, full and part-time, as well as supporting a number of local suppliers. The COVID crisis has hit businesses like ours particularly hard, and we have been closed or just partially open for most of the past year, with over 20 staff currently on furlough. Most people are unaware of how precarious many hospitality businesses are. that even before this current crisis, the combination of above inflation rises in the minimum wage and most of our key costs, rates, electricity, banking, refuse collection, and so on, coupled with increasing customer resistance to price rises, have meant that margins have been continually squeezed. When we reopened last summer, we had to remove about a third of our tables and move to full table service, an arrangement which, when we reopen, is likely to continue for the foreseeable time, meaning that our capacity has been seriously reduced and costs once again increased. Our best hope to maintain all of our staff in employment and ensure the continued health of the business is, we believe, to open some evenings. We've done so in the past on an ad hoc basis. Our occasional supper club events have been very well received and worked well for us. On these occasions, we only opened the cafe with the retail areas closed and limited it to pre-booked tables, so the events were low-key and altogether manageable. In these respects, the proposed new arrangements would be the same, with all cars easily accommodated in our car park and the whole place closed by 10 p.m. What was striking about these events was how very much the place lent itself to it, and it is clear there is a real appetite for it from our regular customers, including some local residents. 4 of our neighbours have raised objections to this application, which sounds a lot until you realise that I posted 17 letters to our closest neighbours explaining our reasons for it, a number of whom also expressed their support to me. We pride ourselves on a long history of good relations with our neighbours, mostly retired people who quite rightly value the quiet life they enjoy. Possibly they believe the site would be as busy in the evenings as in the daytime. I can assure them that it wouldn't. With the retail sections closed, all activity taking place indoors and table bookings only, it would be quiet, and with a guarantee of peace every evening after 10 p.m. at the latest, and often earlier. The fate of the White Hart on the other side of the village and numerous other similar sites in other villages reminds us how easily valued businesses and community resources are lost in these challenging times. Please help us to preserve and sustain this one. Thank you. That's the end of that submission.
Thank you. Those are the only statements to be read on that item. So, Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a highly regarded business and frequented by the ladies at lunch, and now they can have the ladies that go out in the evening. So it's very successful, has been in the past. And I think to approve this will help their recovery from COVID. Of course, a lot of businesses are on the edge, so I think we're obliged to approve this. So I move the officer's recommendation and approve. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Howard Griffiths.
Yeah, it's quite a asset to the borough, this business, and certainly the way that the bottle kiln was saved and converted has preserved some of our heritage in a way that's admirable, and turned it into a useful amenity for the community. I think they're worthy of backing with their application to try and keep the business buoyant, and I wish them all good luck in the future. I'll second.
Thank you. Councillor John Flood.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I support this business, no problem. I just think that businesses like this, hopefully now we've got a roadmap out of COVID, and we're going to stay not locked down. Hopefully, I just think they need all the help they can get, and certainly the people who are presently furloughed. I mean, I'm sure they can't wait to get back to work and go back onto a full wage. So I've got no problem, and I will be supporting this application.
Thank you. Councillor Linda Flood.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think most of it's been said what I wanted to say, but I do support this application. I've been in this place a couple of times over the years. It's really going to help them to keep going, and yeah, I support it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Holbrook. Councillor Holbrook.
I've reread I couldn't understand the conditions at first because it seemed to conflict, but I've reread them and now understand them.
Thank you. It always helps to read these things, even reread them sometimes. Well, the officer's recommendation again has been of approval has been moved and seconded, so we'll move again to the vote, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Custance, are you voting for?
Yeah.
Councillor John Flood.
For.
Councillor Mrs. Flood.
For.
Councillor Howard Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Margaret Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Holbrook.
For.
Councillor Sanghera.
For.
Councillor Miller.
Approve.
Councillor Parkinson.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
Councillor Sewell.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor White.
For.
Therefore, Chairman, the application has been approved.
Thank you very much. That's a unanimous approval. We'll move on to agenda item 6, which is a very long opening statement, but it's all sorts of things at number 11 Forward Street, Ilkeston. Mr. Snow.
The application site is a detached house set down a lengthy driveway off Forward Street within the built-up residential area of Ilkeston. The application seeks permission to retain a single-storey link extension built between the house and what was a detached garage, plus the proposed conversion of that garage into additional living accommodation. This plan shows the existing at the top and proposed below floor plans and elevations of the proposed development. It's the driveway to the property from Forward Street. The house is the one in the distance and the garage is not actually visible in this shot. It's not the one you can see in the centre of the photo. But closer up, this is the house with the garage alongside. The link extension between the two is just visible. This shows the frontage of the house itself, demonstrating that adequate off-street parking is available within the site. It shows the relationship of the garage to the boundary of the site. And this is the view from behind the site, looking back at the back wall of the garage and the link extension on the left. A new residential development is being constructed on this adjacent site, which will screen the proposals when completed. And the recommendation, Chair, is to approve the application subject to the conditions set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. We have two speakers, the first, or representations, I should say. First being from Stephen Olrenshaw.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll read that statement. This is my statement regarding the application ERE/1120/0074. On reviewing the amended application dated the 1st of March 2021, which addresses my concerns about my loss of privacy on the first planning application submitted, this concern has been addressed in the amended application by the roof lights directly overlooking my property, i.e. number 10 Forward Street, being specified as needing to be obscure glazed and fixed shut, and providing this remains a condition of approval, I have no objections. Thank you.
Thank you. And the second one is from Mr. and Mrs. Slaney.
Thank you, Chairman. We are hoping to extend our property into an existing garage area with the use of a link room which is constructed with a flat roof. We opted for a flat roof due to the structural complications it may cause if we had a pitched roof. With the link room being slightly offset from the main house, we feel it would pose issues in joining the main dwelling to the proposed garage conversion with a pitched roof. We understand that flat roofs can cause concerns if they are visible from the public highway. This isn't the case. As you can see from the outlined boundary images, our property isn't visible from the public highway, and nor is the link extension. The extension will form a link from the existing house through into the garage area. We are hoping to convert the garage into extra accommodation to be able to support our elderly parents and in time give our 12-year-old son, who is at the high end of the autistic spectrum, a form of independent living, but not entirely separate. After the initial site visit from the council, we altered the garage plans and retracted the dormer. We have also took all our surrounding neighbours' comments into consideration, and we feel that we have addressed all the issues raised. We hope the committee can see our reasons for the proposal, and we don't see any reasons for concerns, not now nor for future owners in years to come. Thank you. That's the end of that submission.
Thank you. There are no other submissions, so call on Councillor John Flood.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I too can see the reasons for this application. You know, to be honest, all we're talking about and all it's before the committee for is the flat roof. If it had got a pitched roof, I don't think it'd be before the committee. So happy to move approval, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Scott. No, sorry, Councillor Howard Griffiths. Councillor Griffiths.
Yes, Chair. Just formally move second approval.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just a family looking out for the generation above and the generation below. There's no blot on the landscape, and I fully support this application.
Thank you. If no other speakers, then the officer's recommendation of approval has again been moved and seconded, so I will ask for the roll call, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Right, councillors, you're voting for, against or to abstain approval of this application. Councillor Custance.
For.
Councillor John Flood.
For.
Councillor Mrs. Flood.
For.
Councillor Howard Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Margaret Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Holbrook.
For.
Councillor Sanghera.
For.
Councillor Miller.
Approve.
Councillor Parkinson.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
Councillor Sewell.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor White.
For.
Thank you, Chairman. That application has been approved.
Thank you. Another unanimous approval. Agenda item 7 then is construction of a garage with a room for a car and cycle store at Washing Stones Cottage, Derwent Street, Draycott. Mr. Snow.
Yeah. The application site is a detached house at the western end of Derwent Street, in Draycott. The site lies just in the green belt. It is proposed to erect a detached garage to the side and rear of the house as shown on this plan. This shows the proposed elevations of the garage. View of the property from the front from Derwent Street. The driveway leading to the proposed garage is on the right of the dwelling as we view it. It shows the proposed siting of the garage at the rear of the house, as does this time looking towards the northern boundary of the site. That's just the rear of the house as it stands at the moment. The view back along the driveway towards the front, towards Derwent Street. And finally, this is the view from outside the site, from the adjacent footpath to the north. The garage will be sited behind the boundary hedge that we can see there. And the recommendation, Chair, again, is to approve the application subject to the conditions in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no speakers on this. We've heard all our representation for tonight, so the rest of the agenda item we have no representation, so it's straight on to members. Councillor Sewell.
I can't get the camera to work. However, this is.
We can hear you. It's all right.
We'll move to approve.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes.
I move to approve.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Chair. This property is right at the end of Derwent Street and doesn't really affect any surrounding properties, and I second approval.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chairman. It is a very large plot, so it will almost disappear and certainly won't bother anyone. And it's pleasing to see that they're having a bike store, so obviously being green as well. So I approve as well. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Again, the officer's recommendation of approval has been moved and seconded, so a roll call, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillors, you're voting for, against or to abstain for approval of this application. Councillor Custance.
For.
Councillor John Flood.
For.
Councillor Mrs Flood.
For.
Councillor Howard Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Margaret Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Holbrook.
For.
Councillor Sangera.
For.
Councillor Miller.
For.
Councillor Parkinson.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
Councillor Sewell.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor White.
For.
Thank you, Chairman. That application has been approved.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 8 is various extensions at number 26 Whitaker Lane, Little Eaton. Mr. Snow.
Chairman, the application cites a detached dwelling on the northeastern side of Whitaker Lane within the green belt at Little Eaton. This shows the existing elevations of the property, and it's proposed to erect a side extension, a dormer window to the rear and a canopy over the front door. This plan shows the proposed elevations and floor plans of the property. This shows the property on the right looking along Whitaker Lane. This shows its frontage in more detail. The side extension will be on the right hand side as we view it. This shows the rear of the property looking slightly to the left and to the right, and the recommendation, Chair, is to approve the application subject to the conditions in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. We're quite familiar with this area. Members? No indications, in which case I shall move the recommendation of the officers to approve it. May I have a seconder, please?
Can I formally second that, Chair?
Thank you. If no one wants to speak, then can we take the roll call, please?
Certainly, Chairman. Right, we're voting for, against or to abstain this application. Councillor Custance.
For.
Councillor John Flood.
For.
Councillor Mrs Flood.
For.
Councillor Howard Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Margaret Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Holbrook.
For.
Councillor Sangera.
For.
Councillor Miller.
For.
Councillor Parkinson.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
Councillor Sewell.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor White.
For.
Thank you, Chairman. That application has been approved.
Thank you very much. Moving on rapidly to agenda item 9, with various alterations and a new wall and gate at Brookfield Farm, Solly Road, Draycott. Mr. Snow.
The application cites a detached bungalow and garage on the southern side of Sawley Road, again within the green belt at Draycott. It's proposed to add a new brick skin to the exterior of the property and the garage, to replace the roof tiles, to alter the front bay windows, and to erect a new boundary wall to the frontage of the site. This plan shows the existing plans at the bottom and the proposed plans above. The proposed wall is shown on the small inset on the right-hand side of the plan. This shows the property looking along the Sawley Road frontage. The conifers would be removed and replaced by the proposed wall. This is the view back along Sawley Road in the opposite direction. This is the front of the bungalow, as is this, and a view across the frontage towards the detached garage. Recommendation, Chair, is to approve the application subject to the conditions in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. No representations. Members, please.
Could I formally move the recommendation, Chair?
Thank you, Councillor Flood. Councillor Griffiths.
I'll second that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I see no problem with the application, and I'll formally second.
Thank you very much. No other speakers, then we will move to the vote, please. the officer's recommendation is to approve.
Thank you, Chairman. Right, councillors, you're voting for, against, or to abstain for this application. Councillor Custance.
For.
Councillor John Flood.
For.
Councillor Mrs Flood.
For.
Councillor Howard Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Margaret Griffiths. Councillor Margaret Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Holbrook.
For.
Councillor Hopkinson. Oh, Councillor Sangera.
For.
Councillor Miller.
For.
Councillor Parkinson.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
Councillor Sewell.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor White.
For.
Thank you, Chairman. That has been application has been approved.
Thank you very much. And agenda item 10, then our alterations and a new external bin store at the Abbotsford Community Centre.
Thank you, Chair. The application site is now known as The Pod, the Abbotsford Community Centre off Summerfields Way South in Ilkeston. It's proposed to make alterations to the building consisting of painting it grey, adding a mural to one end and alterations to windows and doors. It's also proposed to erect a bin store and to site a storage container as shown on this layout plan. This shows the proposed elevations of the building and indeed the freestanding bin store on the bottom right. And this shows the elevations of the proposed storage container. This is the view into the site from Summerfields Way. This shows the building and the car park alongside, and here it is in a little more up. Recommendation, Chair, is to approve the application subject to the conditions set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Members? Councillor Sewell?
Yes, Chair. So I just move to approve. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John Flood?
Second approval, Chair. Thank you.
Anybody else? No. Again, the recommendation to approve has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillors, you are voting for, against, or abstention to approve this application. Councillor Custance.
For.
Councillor John Flood.
For.
Councillor Mrs Flood.
For.
Councillor Howard Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Margaret Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Holbrook.
For.
Councillor Sangera.
For.
Councillor Miller.
For.
Councillor Parkinson.
For.
Councillor Scott.
For.
Councillor Sewell. Councillor Sewell.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor White.
For.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. That application has been approved.
Thank you. Agenda item 11 then is the proposed naming of a new road off Bennett Street, unsurprisingly Wade Close.
Yes, Chairman, this report relates to the proposed naming of a new road off Bennett Street. The site is currently under construction for 109 dwellings, and the proposed street name, Wade Close, is not on the Council's approved list of street names, so the approval of the committee is required. As you say, not surprising, but the name Wade has historical connections to the site and the surroundings as set out in the report, so the recommendations to approve. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very pleased to see this recommendation. Long Eaton, as we know, is a sort of world centre of upholstery. In fact, Wade's made furniture for some very important places, including the Queen Mary, the QE2, and I think even for the Pope. So I think it's very important to keep their name going. And Mr. Wade is very pleased to hear about this. And if possible, if it's approved, we would like to organise some sort of opening ceremony where you may cut the ribbon. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Griffiths.
Yeah, yes, Chair. We should. I'm never too sure with a street naming as to whether we should declare an interest because it's in our ward. But I'll mention that it is in our ward. Councillor Mrs. Griffiths and mine. Yes, it's a well-known name in the area and fitting. I was thinking that they could have called it Canal Turn. a sport reference dear to my heart, and but I think Wade Avenue is it's nice, dignified name, and I'll second approval of it.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Griffiths.
Yes, thank you. I was struggling to unmute myself there. Yes, it struck me Little Venice might be another name as well, but it's a nice large side. It looks to be very imaginatively developed, and the work's going on apace even as we speak. I think it will be really good to see it used again, and I'm very happy to sort of I'd second the recommendation, but I'll certainly be voting approval on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. No other speakers. I think we can vote by exception on this item rather than a roll call. So unless I see anything to the contrary in the chat box, I will assume or declare approval. No comments, so that application that is approved then. Thank you. And the final item on our agenda tonight, agenda item 12, is an appeal decision. Mr. Snow.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This appeal was lodged against the committee's refusal of planning permission to retain a large metal fence alongside Lowes Lane at Stanton. The application was refused due to the stark appearance of the fence, with no landscaping to shield it and it being prominent along the Lowes Lane frontage. The inspector noted the context of the site within an industrial area and felt that if the fence were painted green and that some landscaping were undertaken, then its appearance would be softened to the extent that permission could be granted. So accordingly, subject to those conditions, he allowed the appeal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Birkinshaw.
Thank you, Chair. I'm surprised not to see Councillor Thomas on the speak list. He's already reminded me that he spoke in favour of this of approving this proposal at committee, and he would be perfectly within his rights to remind us again tonight. I, however, remain disappointed with the decision. This seemed to be an example with a business with whom we've reacted positively on planning matters in the past, and I hope we'll react positively in the future, carrying out development without consent in a manner which caused him little benefit. We totally understand the need for security on the site, but with the levelling works he's had to conduct, actually he could have retained his hedge, levelled his site and put the fence on the top of the earth bank to the back and had exactly the same usable area, improved security and an improved appearance. I'm very hopeful that the inspector will be proved right and that the repainting of the fence and the planting behind the fence will ameliorate its impact. I hope it will not affect the currently exciting negotiations that are ongoing with Verdant Limited for the proposed redevelopment of adjacent land. Thank you very much, Chair, for indulging me.
Thank you. Councillor John Frode.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm sure it won't affect the Verdant development, which is interesting and exciting. I agree with Mr. Birkinshaw. Yeah, this is one that I wasn't allowed to attend. I think I was told to stay at home because I was vulnerable and couldn't attend the planning committee. It was just before I think we started having virtual meetings. Yeah, he did. I think he did a lot of silly things. I do accept that. But I think he was getting a lot of crime on the site, particularly waste being tipped on site by criminal gangs, which is quite a criminal business. We're not talking about a few fag packets. We're talking about large amounts of waste just being dumped on his site. I can understand why he did it. I don't, I think he went about it the wrong way. there's not a lot. What a lot that he did was right initially, but I think it's coming to it's coming to fruition now. I'd like to see some decent landscaping behind that fence now to break, because the fence does look quite stark. Although there are fences, similar fences to adjoining premises along that stretch of those lanes. So, it's not out of keeping, but I'd like to see it really smartened up and good landscaping. I think will be fine, and then it'll be totally acceptable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Howard Griffiths.
Yes, I wasn't surprised by the result of the appeal. I found it difficult to understand why we went into a battle which I don't think we ought to have won anyway. They started painting it green, and it must admit it does make a difference to the impact that fence has. But it's ironic that lots of that land is unfenced in that area. It's been a right nuisance, abused by off-road motorcycles, fly tippers, goodness knows what. And when a landowner decides to put security up, we ought to be patting them on the back, not trying to chase them through the planning system. I was quite surprised at the recommendation, and but I'm glad it's been overturned. And when you look, Derbyshire County Council have put similar fencing round schools without painting it in residential areas, and for us to point the finger at the West Transport Company seems a bit naughty, to say the least. I'm glad they've increased security. I support the inspector on this one for a change, and I must admit I applaud Mr. Birkinshaw for his courage. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With no other speakers, do members agree to note the report? I see no objection to so doing, so the report is noted. And therefore at 6:27, that completes the business for this evening. Thank you all very much.